What up everyone, it's your boy XEMNU87 here, bringing you another top 10 video, and what I have for you today is my top 10 favorite comic Marvel Legends figures of 2021. This is my favorite list to rank, as the comic book based figures are my favorite from Legends. For my new viewers and subscribers, just to let you know how I do this, I go off my personal attachments and fun factor of the figures that I acquired within the year. I don't allow ratings from my reviews to affect my rankings, so ratings and pricing is thrown out the window. Of course, I will factor in sculpting, articulation, accessories, etc. to consider one over the other, but ultimately will choose my personal favorites. Before I get into everything, if you could please leave a thumbs up, like rating on the video, it'll help show your support for my channel and I greatly appreciate it. Now, with that said, let's get ready to count down! I want to quickly start with my honorable mentions. AOA Iceman came out wonderful as one of the best visually appealing Legends figures. Psycho Man is Jack Kirby perfection. Hasbro should have included a pointing finger hand for him to interact with his control box. The Theta Sentinel Bath is enjoyably posable. I'm a sucker for robotic looking characters. Shriek launches a new era for comic female legends. And Armadillo hurts me not putting him on the list, but there was one bath you'll see later that took his spot for me, and it was for a few major reasons. But this is one of their best baths ever made. Coming in at the number 10 spot, we have TIGRA. If you saw my top 10 female legends list in my last video, you know that this is my number 1 and deserves her spot in my comic list. To me, she's the best female figure in the line this year because she has a lot of great qualities to her, from sculpt, paint, articulation, accessories, you know, the whole kit and caboodle. I already said it all in my last video. We really need a classic Mockingbird to round out the original founding members of the West Coast Avengers. For now, TIGRA helps us in getting closer to that. A phenomenal figure from head to tail to toes. Coming in at the number 9 spot, we have Modular Iron Man. Growing up in the 90s, this was my Iron Man. From the Iron Man cartoon during the Marvel Action Hour and Marvel vs. Capcom games, the Modular Iron Man armor is my definitive Iron Man. The proportions on this one is way better than the Toy Biz one, as he actually looks like a dude in armor. This sculpt is superb. The mix of metallic paint and glossy areas gives him a beautiful shine. The articulation is wonderful to capture many flight poses. I would like to see drop down hips on a Legends Iron Man figure one day to put his feet together for a straight ascending or descending pose. He comes with alt hands and some blast effects. Another effect piece would have been nice. Wished he had his proton cannon to go with this armor, but maybe we might see that one day in a deluxe. I do see a repaint in a yellow instead of gold, especially if they do an Iron Man retro wave. All in all, this is the best comic style Legends Iron Man they've put out. Coming in at the number 8 spot, we have THANOS. Finally, a classic THANOS in the 6-inch Legends line. It should have never taken this long, but the wait was worth it with all these new features they are applying to the figures now, such as the pinless joints. A great representation of Jim Starlin's art. The proportions are perfect on him, and the work to this sculpt captures his body frame perfectly. You get some nice light blue shading in some areas. He could have been in my top 5 if they painted the gold plastic to metallic. The little gold paint we have looks very nice though. The head with that signature grin of his is big money. The King Thanos head was useless. It doesn't belong to this look, so missed opportunity to put another classic style head with this. At least he does have a few alt hands that make up for it. The snap hand is my absolute favorite. The articulation is decent. It's what you would expect from a big beefy figure. He just needed more range at the elbows. We definitely need Def besides him after they teased her on the packaging art. He was a ton of fun to photograph, and as a big fan of the Mad Titan, I absolutely adore this figure. At the number 7 spot, we have the Red Skull. Speaking of finally getting a classic Thanos, it's about damn time for a classic Red Skull too. It's definitely the one we've been clamoring most about to be made for the line. His iconic green jumpsuit is sculpted terrifically with pinless elbows and knees. I like the yellow armband with the Hydra logo, as it'll complement your Hydra soldiers behind or alongside him. Tons of interchangeable hands for play and display. An SMG-like gun that has a Hydra logo on it, which looks very cool. A cosmic cube, and 2 interchangeable heads that both look boss in that classic comic bright red. Love the articulation on this guy, as he's got posing for days. My Hydra shelf was in dire need of this classic Red Skull to lead his Hydra army, one of this year's biggest standouts. At number 6, we have Ultron. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but finally, a classic Ultron. Hasbro spoiled us by bringing in so many classic looks of the villains we love, and it shows here with Ultron. The scale is perfect, but unfortunately, his scale has been overlooked by some folks out there that don't know their comics or think they do by saying he should have been bigger. False. This is Ultron 11, which he stands at 6 feet tall, so he's supposed to be about the same size as Iron Man. Now, if we're talking about a few forms like Ultron 13 or Phalanx Ultron, then yeah, those versions are supposed to be taller at 8 feet or so. So again, this guy is perfect. The silver metallic paint is beautifully done, so it didn't need the lines painted in black. Sure, it would have looked nice, but it still looks good without it. I actually prefer an all silver Ultron like this. So I can retire my outdated Marvel Selects version as it doesn't scale with my Legends. Those ball jointed hips were terrible. This Legends is far superior with its silver paint, pinless elbows and knees, which makes him look import-like. Articulation is fantastically posable. Another figure to pose for days. The head sculpt is money, 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 and more money. The accessories with interchangeable hands and that Kirby crackle effect that you can plug into his mouth or his hand makes him look godlike. Oh my god, I'm done here. I'm just in love with this figure. Now, for my mid-credit honorable mentions, I like to point out some two figures that almost made my list. So first off is Cyber. Always wanted this figure. I'm a fan of this body mold. Love the colors. Just wished he had some alternate hands. But I had a lot of fun with this figure. Then AOA Magneto. You know it's not your boy X-Manny87 without mentioning his own boy. AOA Magneto is my favorite Legends Magneto and is a great alternative to save you $100 on the MOFX version. Now let the top 5 commence. At the number 5 spot we have URSA Major. So this is the one BAF that took Armadillo's spot after going back and forth with them. While they both have unique scopes and are first timers in the line, it came down to 3 things for me. 1, team building. If you know me, you know this reigns true as this brings us rounding out the Winter Guard team and at least having the core 4 of URSA, Darkstar, Crimson Dynamo, and Red Guardian. Number 2, I've always desired for an URSA Major figure more. I never wanted Armadillo as much as I wanted URSA. Not saying I never wanted him, but he was very low on my list, whereas URSA was very high. Lastly, number 3, we'll get more figures out of URSA's body mold like a Grizzly and Demon Bear. Whereas I'm not sure if we'll get anything out of Armadillo. Hope you understand my reasoning because the introductory of new characters is extremely important to me. Beautiful sculpting and paint wash, the articulation is good, but I feel the torso needed to bend forward some more. Wished he had a neutral alternate head, but how can you not love an angry looking bear? He's just a spectacular chunk of plastic. The real Build-A-Bear. At number 4, we have M.O.D.O.K, another one where Hasbro dethrones Toy Biz with a better version. Although I do like the paint job on the Toy Biz more, but this overall fits better with our current Legends. The size is so much bigger and better this time around. The Toy Biz one is much smaller, which is still okay to keep as he's been drawn in small sizes in the comics. This bigger one just makes for a better centerpiece for your AIM or villains display. I like the sculpting more on this one too, and the fact that you have 2 interchangeable faceplates and alternate hands plus accessory storage for the inside to not lose them is a huge plus. Come on, I don't care if you don't agree with me, but one thing is for sure, they exceeded a majority of collectors' expectations as there were plenty that didn't expect them to pull off a M.O.D.O.K as good as this. They did it right by making him a premium deluxe figure and not a BAF in a wave because the packaging pretty much made him a BAF in a box. So no restrictions with size. I love that they released Scientist Supreme to display him with as his co-commander and lead your AIM soldiers. I felt like the only thing missing was shooting laser effects as they gave him the missile burgers for the post-con variant. But this figure still has so much play value and deserves to be in my top 5. Coming in at number 3, we have the AOA Sabretooth. Talk about fun factor. My god, did this figure bring it. It makes you go back to get a figure from 2020 so you can experience the replayability as it's meant to be, having Wild Child mounted on him and getting the two in various poses, utilizing that chain makes Wild Child feel like an additional accessory, and the fun seems endless. I felt like they went with the right choice with this body as it's rarely used. I'm a fan of it as it's very sturdy, so I didn't have any trouble balancing Wild Child on top of him. 2 fists and 2 open hands to hold Wild Child's chain. Some folks are mad that he doesn't have claws, but I keep telling some of them that this version of Sabretooth was depowered and was drawn without claws plenty of times. It's not that serious to be mad about. The 2 interchangeable heads are great and captures Creed's expressions from the AOA books perfectly. He helps complete that AOA astonishing X-Men team, and he's one of this year's best highlights. Coming in at number 2 is AOA Colossus. This AOA Colossus is indeed legendary. He's the best BAF of the year in the best wave of the year, and I was blown away by this figure in every way. They paid attention to the source material and gave him that nice gunmetal gray, not the shiny bright silver, as his steel skin is supposed to look worn out and weathered because he took a severe amount of damage, which is why he's permanently stuck in this form. The armored parts look badass. I just wish they applied metallic red paint on them. The head sculpt is so fierce. Love the paint on it and the posable bandana. The extra hands are always appreciated to support BAF accessories. The articulation is better on here than the last Colossus from the Juggernaut 2-pack. Happy they gave him double jointed elbows, no pins either on the arms and legs. What I didn't expect was finding myself having more fun with pairing him and Shadowcat together than I did with Sabretooth and Wild Child. Getting her mounted on him is a lot easier, and setting up the AOA version of the Fastball Special was an overload of joy. I strongly believe that Colossus, like a few of his wave mates such as Iceman, Magneto, Sabretooth, and arguably Shadowcat, are the best figures representing these characters in the Legends line. Coming in at the number 1 spot is the HASLAB House of X Sentinel. This takes the crown as this is the most visually appealing Marvel Legend. There's not one Legends figure that comes nowhere near close to this. It's truly a visual masterpiece. The sculpt and paint are a perfect combination. I've been saying that there are no pictures, videos that can do this justice. You have to experience this in person. I strongly stand by saying that. The fun factor is at an all-time high here as there's just so much I can do with it. He can grab 6-inch Legends with both his hands thanks to the articulated fingers. The LED light-up functions add more life to it. Articulation is solid for his size, especially utilizing that double diaphragm joint. The ankle rocker and neck range on some heads were the only weak part about it, but everywhere else he maneuvers nicely. The fun factor of the tiers, sky's the limit. I ended up going back and forth with everything. The bendable tentacles, the battle damage parts like the hand and the head, the other heads as well were a great addition, and let's not forget about Master Mold. To me, that's the icing on the cake. I know some collectors told me that they only got one and wish they were able to afford more to army build. My response to that was, that's okay. If you have one, use this as your master mold for your other Sentinels on display. You won't find another Sentinel bigger than this. Then the Army Builder tiers were a brilliant addition to include Army Builders within an Army Builder. You get Bastion, a male and female Sentinel Prime figures. Everything here enhances your display and play experience. The most fun I had photographing this year, even with the new challenges it presented, it was quite the experience. Truly a glorious figure and an instant holy grail. A legendary Marvel legend. That was my top 10 favorite Marvel Legends comic figures of 2021. I'll do a brief year-end review and awards on a separate video just to save time here. Now I kick it back to you. Since I shared my comic list, what's on yours? What figures were you happy about seeing on my list? What are some comic figures that you would like to see next? Comment below, let me know, we'll chat about it. Thank you for watching another top 10 video. Please follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, link is in the description below. Hit the notification bell so you always know when my latest videos are up. Share and subscribe if you're new. See you on the next video. Peace.